Well, good morning. We are here to do a very short video specific to VHF antennas. We'll talk about that. We are here in Menifee, California. When you get older, you need to know it's at W6CT216, betterly known as Hill 2141. So, as you guys know, I'm a big advocate of doing VHF activations every time I'm out, and that's to get local interest, keep it up. But you know, when you go onto a peak, you have points to give out, and I like to make sure that everybody's taken care of. Today, I'm not taking care of anybody outside of my immediate area because last night a solar wind blew in, and it has got us in terrible conditions for the next 3 to 4 days. So I elected to use today is a VHF only day. Now, with some of my recent videos, I've had a lot of questions emailed to me and in the comment sections about rolled up J-poles versus my Yagi, the Arrow antenna versus the David Fong antenna, and which one's better. And you know, and to be honest with you, I don't know what the answer to that question is because there's a lot of variables in there. The Arrow antenna is the model 146-3. It's the handheld 3-element dedicated Yagi. It's not the satellite one. It's a dedicated 144 megahertz beam. And the David Fong antenna I'm using is the DBJ2, which is a dual bander. Covers 144 megahertz and 70 centimeters. So the question came up, is it worth it to buy both, or is it worth it to have the beam, or does the beam outperform the rolled up J-pole? And all those questions I don't have an answer for because I've never done a real side-by-side comparison between the two. I've seen some videos that suggest one way and then suggest the other, but I want to find out for myself. Now, a lot of you might say, well, this isn't very scientific because, you know, it's not done in a laboratory environment. I'm doing this the way I operate. So it's just going to be that way. And I think that you really need to test out your equipment in the environment that you're going to use it in. And that's why I'm always a big proponent of operate, operate, operate. Don't be an equipment collector and never get out. Use your equipment, get to know its limitations, and then make decisions based on that. So what we're going to do today is we're going to hike up to the top of this hill, which we're not going to cover because this is what I call like a dirt pimple. This is just a little mound of dirt in the middle of nowhere. It's not very interesting. I've been up this hill before. It's basically, well, the lower part is where people come to dump their trash, and then the upper part is just these rocky dirt roads. So it's really, forget it. Anyway, once I get to the top, we'll set up. The plan is what we're going to do. We're going to set up both the J-pole on a Soda Beams Tactical Mini, which is about 19.5 feet tall, and we're going to feed it with our 35-foot section of RG8, and then we're going to set up the Yagi, the Arrow beam, and we're going to try to get some of our contacts to hold on long enough to let us switch between the two antennas and see if it makes a significant difference. While I'm hiking up there, let's look at go over the antennas. Let's look at them and how we're going to set this up and some of the limitations and the specifics about these two antennas. Once we get on top, we'll talk about the fact that we're not very high today and how that's going to affect our test. Let's get going, okay? Okay, so today we're comparing the basically the Ed Fong J-pole against the Arrow 146-3. Those are just manufacturer's names. So basically it's a comparison of a J-pole versus a beam, a Yagi. So that just happens to be the name of the brand I bought. Cost. Okay, so right now a J-pole is going to run you about $40 to have it made and shipped to you. But I mean, there are virtually hundreds of plans available on the internet to build these things yourself. The Arrow is going to run you about $85. Now, if you're going to get one of these to pack in and do soda activations, get the split beam. If you don't get the split beam, you're going to have this handle towering out of your pack and you're not going to be very happy about it. The maximum power for the J-pole is about 50 watts, less than 10 watts for the beam, and I have a sneaking suspicion that that just is a RF exposure issue as opposed to hardware. The J-pole is going to be usable on 144 megahertz and 70 centimeters. The particular brand of beam I have is 144 megahertz only. There's no gain associated with the J-pole since it's basically omnidirectional, and then some data suggests that the beam is about 6 dB forward gain. Polarization of the J-pole is vertical only. The arrow, you can do vertical or horizontal since it's handheld. Now here's where the numbers really get weird to affect these antennas' effectiveness. The thickest coax that I can hike with and get in my pack without damaging it is RG8X. And RG8X, I carry a 35-foot section because I typically raise this antenna up about 23 feet, and it gives me a little room so I can get away from the antenna. At that, I'm 1.418 of dB loss, which means effectively I'm emitting 3.607 watts at the antenna, opposed to the patch cord I use of the same RG8X for the beam, which is 0.203 dB loss. 4.772 watts are making its way to the antenna. Now, granted, I'd love to be able to pack in some, say, RG8U because the numbers plummet then. I mean, if I'm using 8U, my loss goes down significantly to 0.539 dB, and I'm putting out 4.416 watts, but it's just, you can't put that stuff in a pack. The one mistake you don't want to make, don't use RG174 with your VHF applications. Your numbers skyrocket. Your dB loss goes up to 3.681. You're only putting out 2.142 watts. I don't use 172 for VHF. Support needed. Yeah, with the J-pole, you're either going to have to hang it out of a tree with cord, or you're going to have to put it on a mast, but it's going to need some sort of support. Here in Southern California, on top of most of our summits, no trees. So you got to take a mast or some way to put it in the air. The arrow beam is handheld, so you don't need a support. The big difference here, look at this, antenna weight, 2.2 ounces for the J-pole, and then you got 1 pound, 2 ounces for the beam. Alrighty, so we made it to the top. Let me just get you filled in on what we're doing, where we're at right now. As we look over in this direction, over kind of in this area, you're looking at Santiago Peak, and that's kind of just on the borderline between Riverside and San Diego, or Riverside and Orange County. Right over that hill would be San Clemente area. Our LA Basin area is going to be right over this ridge right here, and I'm thinking we got a pretty good shot for that area, and we'll look at the profile here in a second. And then of course Inland Empire is all along here. Scattered mountains to that area, so there'll be some blockage, but still I think we have a pretty good shot at it. San Gorgonio, and then as we come around looking south, one of the big ones that's got us blocked is that ridge right there. That's the Palomar Mountains in San Diego County. So, but that being said, San Diego is actually down in this area. So I'm kind of hoping maybe we make that trip. So let's look at the profile, and you can tell that we've got some mountains between us and those locations, but they're, except for a few areas, they're not too big, okay? So I'm kind of hopeful that we'll make some pretty good VHF contacts today. The other thing is, because on our last video we were at 4,100 feet, today we're at 2,100 feet. Remember, we've always talked about height above average terrain. Well, we're down lower, so the mountains become a bigger factor. So let's look at the map, and as you can see, we've got some mountain ranges and hills and stuff to deal with. So we'll just have to see how it goes. So the plan is, we're going to try to make some contacts, and as we make these contacts, we're going to initially make the contact on the rolled up J-pole, and then we're going to see if we can get some people to help us out, and we'll switch over to the beam and then back to the J-pole and get their opinion and their S reading on which antenna was better. Again, let me just say this, and it's something I learned very quickly about the beam. The beam only being slightly above ground level, at best it's one wavelength, it's really sensitive to ground effects, things you put in front of it. I found that that beam loves to be in open air, up high, and on the downhill side of the slope, meaning it has nothing but air. The minute you get anything between you and it, and I learned this recently, your S readings just tank. So we're gonna get active, we're gonna get it going, and see what contacts we make. Let's go. CQ 2 meters for summits on the air, Kilo Golf 6 Lima India, KG6LI on peak 2141 Menifee. Anybody out there?
Whiskey 6 Oscar Bravo India.
Whiskey 6 Oscar Bravo India. Got you in there, 5'9", my friend. How about me?
You are 5'9" full quieting. Where are you at right now?
So I got a question for you. Am I full scale down there?
Right now, yeah, you almost. I mean, the estimator is about S8, but I mean, you're full quieting, not even the slightest hint of hiss.
If you'd hang on for a minute, I'd like to switch from the. This is on the rolled up J pole. I'd like to switch over to my beam and see if that's better. Would you be willing to hang on a sec?
Sure, I'm at my desk. Go right ahead.
Let me hook that up. It'll only take a second. This is on the beam. Is that any better?
Yeah, actually, that is your last transmission before you switched. It started getting a little crackly.
Kilo 6 Quebec Charlie Bravo.
Jeff, I haven't talked to you since Viejas. How you been, buddy?
Doing good. How you doing up there?
Yeah, there's a little one-pointer, so you only can do so good when you can still see houses, you know what I mean?
Hey, well, a point's a point.
Hey, could I get you to... am I full scale with you, or am I... where am I at with you?
You are 5'9", plus about 40, looks like. When you switch over to the beam, you must then point in a different direction because you went down to an S4 on the beam. But like I said, you might have been pointing in a different direction.
Jeff, if you don't mind, I'm going to hook it up, point it towards you, and see if it's your opinion it's better.
Okay, go ahead.
Stand by just one. Kilo 6 Quebec Charlie Bravo, Kilo Golf 6 Lima India. How's that, Jeff?
You are full scale now, completely full scale. So yeah, that's better.
KN6 JWK Kilo November 6 Juliet Whiskey Kilo. This is Kenny in Eastville. How you doing, Mark?
Okay, Kilo November 6 Juliet Whiskey Kilo from Kilo Golf 6 Lima India. Kenny, how's that?
You're about a 5'7" now.
Okay, so I came up a little bit.
Yes, you did.
Okay, far out, brother. I appreciate you taking the time.
Kilo Foxtrot 6 Delta Golf November.
Okay, David, is that better?
Try one more time.
Kilo Foxtrot 6 Delta Golf November from Kilo Golf 6 Lima India. Up on the summit, am I coming in a little bit better than the previous antenna?
Yeah, the previous one had a little white noise, so yes, this is definitely a little better. Both signals were very good though. So scale, the first one was maybe a 7, the other one's definitely a 9 or 10.
Well, I appreciate that. The first one was my rolled up J pole on a 20-foot mast. This is a handheld Yagi.
Kilowatt Echo 6 Zulu Golf Radio.
Kilo Echo 6 Zebra. Yeah, let's go this way. K6 ZGR Dale. This is the roll up J pole. How do you hear?
You're about 4S units, believe it or not. It dropped. Your audio's still there, a little scratch in it. The other one was much better.
Okay, very good. I'm kind of up here, kind of getting my wits about my antennas. There's been some debate whether the roll-up J-poles are better than the... Well, gang, I think the verdict's in. I think overwhelmingly it was in favor of the beam. So again, the J-pole's a very effective antenna, and I have no qualms with it. The beam seems to squeak it out just a little bit in good terrain. Keep in mind, as we talked previously, effectively there's more wattage going to this antenna than there is to the J-pole, and then this has got a 6 dB forward gain, so that kind of helps a lot. The other issues, I mean, people can adjust that number. I've got my J-pole up about 20 feet. You don't need to be up that high. You can lower it and use a shorter feed line, thus reducing your loss in your line. So overall, I guess that's kind of why I wanted to come up here and see what it was all about. But there's a couple of other things I really like about the beam I wanted to cover before we said goodbye. The beam is really nice for sideband. It's almost essential, because I find on sideband there's a lot of people that are vertically polarized, and most of the hardcore serious sideband 2-meter guys are horizontally polarized. This allows me to do both. Vertically, if you have opposition of polarity, it's no good. It's about 20 dBs in the tank, and at 5 watts, that's not good. So the other thing is a lot of times, well, I'll go to crowded summits, a lot of hikers, a lot of people, and putting up a mast is dangerous at best. In other words, I'm going to end up snagging somebody, or someone's going to run into one of my guide wires or something. It's just okay to set up a beam and walk around and make your contacts and get off. But I do like the roll-up J-pole. It's a good antenna. Don't just let this video dissuade you. The one I'm currently using now is I believe it's called the DBJ2. It's a David Fong. I had previous to this been using the N9TAX roll-up J-pole. It had lasted 2 years with me, went through some abuse. I took a spill on a mountain earlier this year and compressed it too much and cracked it in a bunch of places, so I replaced it. That being said, I hope this helps you in making decisions when you go to buy your antenna. Again, I would have no problem. And the other thing to keep in mind, this thing takes up space and has weight to it. That J-pole, it has no weight. It's very, very light. So that's another factor too. If you're hiking in a long distance and weight is a factor, that would be your best bet. The other thing to keep in mind with these two is that pack space. This takes up a lot more room in your pack than say a roll-up J-pole. So unless you've got a lot of outdoor pocket space, this can be problematic to hike in. Not problematic, it's just bigger. So that being said, I hope this was helpful. This was just a little short video I wanted to do to answer some questions, because I've gotten a couple emails and I got a couple comments to previous videos about my Yagi versus my roll-up J-pole, and I hope this answered that. You take care, and I don't know where we're going next. We'll figure it out. Take care.